Hello, Supercoaches. It is week 3 of SuperCoach Finals. It is the preliminary final week. Wilson Smith is here and travelling pretty well in finals so far.
Yeah, my week 1 was a decent score, but not the greatest. But last week I got just under 1,000 and it moved up from 14,000th to just in the top 3,000 now. So it was a good last week. Just nailed the vice captaincy and captaincy, which I think is going to be the difference for this format.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? Absolutely. If you get the VC and the C right, then you're doing well. The winner last week put the captain on Paul Alamotti, who I reckon about 7 people in the entire 50,000 people playing the competition would have done. So the pod plays are important. For me, I'm sitting in 1800th spot, so not too bad. I've nailed a couple of pods and VCs.
Yeah.
But of course, if you want to win the overall prize, you really need to go after the pods. Speaking of which, the tactic, I think over the first 2 weeks, has been shown that you target the day game on the Sunday. Certainly this weekend, you look at Melbourne, it's going to be 18 degrees on Friday night, probably slippery conditions as well. It's going to be light rain at that particular point. Then you look at the Sunday clash, you got the Panthers versus the Brisbane Broncos up in Brisbane, 28 degrees that afternoon in a day game. So you've got to get as many Broncos and Panthers into your team as possible.
Yeah.
You can only pick a maximum of 3. So obviously you're going to load up on 3 Panthers, 3 Broncos, and then from there, I think it's a bit of a lottery.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I think the Storm Sharks game is definitely, like you said, it's the one to try and minimise if you can. But I think looking at a few positions, I think you still have to pick a couple of guys from there. But my top pod, I actually had a few guys in consideration for pod this week. My first guy I sort of had a brief look at was Billy Burns.
Yes.
We were talking about him before, he's sort of come out of nowhere and is starting over Britton Nickera. He's just been that good. But I'm kind of scared off that game now. So I think another guy I want to just briefly mention is Tyson Smoothie. If you want to avoid Harry Grant or Blake Rayleigh at hooker for the first game, Tyson Smoothie is actually starting in the back row, but I'm pretty sure is available at hooker, so he could be an option there, but just a little bit concerned about the minutes. So I think my pod is actually going to be Gemmet Shibasaki, just like a really consistent guy with a lot of upside. So I think that might be where I go.
I tend to agree with Shibasaki, except that I'm going the centre on the other side of the field. So the weak side in defence for the Panthers is the left-hand side, where they conceded all their tries against the Bulldogs last weekend. Katoni Staggs is coming up against that edge. So you got McLean, who's carrying an injury, plus Sorensen, who didn't look great in defence on the weekend, and Blaze Talangi, who's been a bit of a target too. So I reckon that Katoni could go big with Adam Reynolds back into the team as well. So Adam Reynolds is going to be feeding him this week. I know that the left is traditionally the better side for the Broncos, with Reece Walsh going down that edge. But with Reynolds back, I think Katoni Staggs could go huge against a poor defensive side, well, relatively poor defensive side.
Yeah, and he's, especially in the back end of the season, he really sort of stepped up a bit and was becoming more involved in games. So, yeah, this could be a game that he goes big in as well.
I also think Ben Hunt could be a sneaky one as well.
Yeah.
He's averaging in the 60s over his last 6 games. Bit of a different role this week. He probably plays a bit of hooker because they've got Ezra Mam on the bench and Adam Reynolds is back as well. But I actually like him at hooker in big games because I like what he's done for Queensland in that position.
Yeah, no, for sure. He's not someone I've really looked at, but definitely someone I'll have to have another gaze at.
So let's go quick rules breakdown. So you can only have 3 players from every club, a maximum of 3. So as I've said, I'm going to load up on Broncos and Panthers. And then I think in the forward pack, I'll be going from the other game, guys like Harry Grant, Eli Katoa, etc. Then next week, we get 4 play in the grand final, 4 players. So it's a 50-50 split. Got 8 players all up, 4 from each team.
Yeah, I agree. I think loading up on Panthers and Broncos is the way to go this week.
So at hooker, it's a tough call. I reckon it's a 50-50 call between Harry Grant and Blake Brayley. Which way are you leaning?
It's tough because I think they're both very safe. And the fact that it's probably going to be a wet, low-scoring game, I think the base will be there and they'll both be making a lot of tackles. To me, it comes down to sort of ownership. I may just end up going with whichever of the two is less owned.
Yeah.
Just to, be a bit of a pod. But I do think Harry Grant has more upside.
Yeah.
Even if the conditions are bad. So I think I'm leaning Harry Grant at the moment, but I'll probably end up just going with whoever is less owned.
Yeah, for me, it's Harry Grant. Just the big game experience is huge, and we've seen what he's done in big games this year, particularly in Origin. So I'm leaning just towards him, even though Brayley has been probably the form hooker in SuperCoach this year. On to front row. Can you go anyone other than Payne Haas? He scored 100 in his last match 2 weeks ago. He had an ankle injury in that game. He had 3 stints on the field, so he's coming off and on all the time. But still scored 100. I just don't think he can go anywhere else. He's so much better than anyone else in that slot. So I know that I want to go with big attacking players from the Broncos in the back line. But for me, Payne Haas is he's equally as good an attacking player as some of those folks.
Yeah, I think the only argument around not picking him would be if you want to load up on a few other Broncos in particular. Yeah. But I think I do think you just have to lock him in. Adam Fanua-Blake, it could be potentially another option, but the fact that, like we just said, that the weather, it doesn't look like it's going to be that great for that game. I think that limits his upside a bit. So I really do think that Payne Haas is just a lock.
Well, AFB needs to score tries, and he's very good at doing that, but is he going to do it against the Storm in Melbourne? I don't think so. Yeah. So you just got to lock in Payne Haas.
Yeah.
And I'm almost certain that he'll be the most popular player this week, except for perhaps at halfback with Nathan Cleary. We'll get to that in a sec. At 2RF, I think this is a great slot to fit in someone from that Sharks Storm game. So I'm going to go with Eli Katoa. Look, again, big games, he goes well. He's an international player. Running off Jerome Hughes back in the team, so he'll be running off Jerome Hughes, which is a big boost for him.
Hughes being back for him is absolutely massive, and I have Katoa locked in for now as well. But I think I may load up on a few other Panthers, but I do like Isaiah Yeo in that game as well. So for me, it depends on who I end up going with at centre wing. If I go with a Panther or a Bronco, or if I go with a Panther, I may not go Isaiah Yeo in the forward pack, but I do like him as well.
Yeah, I like Yeo. I had him last week, and he kind of, as good as he was, he didn't get in on the big attacking stats, so he gets cut this week because I've got all my Panthers are in the big attacking slots in the back line. Any love for Teague Wilton? Great on the weekend with that little grubber and chase. Or Billy Burns is your boy.
Yeah, I do like both of them, but I think it just depends on the weather for me. I think that game, and I do think it is, even if it's the weather's fine, I do think that will just be a low scoring, really intense finals type game of footy. So I'm kind of fading the Sharks forwards a little bit.
Yep. For me, I still think it's a good slot to get some sort of steady forward in there and then load up on the attacking guys in the back line, such as Nathan Cleary, who, let's face it, everyone's going to own him. Most people are going to put the captaincy on him. If you want to get a decent finish in SuperCoach Finals, you probably have to do that. If you want to win the prize, the major prize, then you probably have to take some sort of pod option, like the winner last week who went with Alamotti.
Yeah, insane. I do like Nathan Cleary at halfback, and he's probably who I'm just going to lock in. I think he could go big. I actually had Nico Hines as my starting halfback last week and had Cleary in my flex, which played out well. But I think so. Some people may be tempted to go with Nico after his score last week, but I do think that Cleary is just the way to go this week. Nico may struggle a bit more against Storm. Yeah,
Nico against the Storm. I've got a cross against him.
Yep.
Jerome Hughes, as much as I love him, coming back from, we think that he's carrying a shoulder injury. Plus, he's coming back at least a week or maybe even 2 early from a broken wrist.
Yeah.
I'd be worried about Jerome Hughes as well. So for me, you just have to go Cleary.
Yeah, and I think he is named, but there is every chance that that he won't end up actually starting. So there's question marks around him for me. Same with Adam Reynolds.
At 5'8", a tough position because it's been one of the poorer positions for SuperCoach this year. The obvious option is Cameron Munster, who we know can go big in big games, just loves that type of atmosphere. But as we've been saying, that game in Melbourne could be a bit low scoring.
Yeah, and I think in the last 2 weeks, I think my 5'8" has been my player who's dropped with the lowest score each week. So it's been a bit of a non-factor, but I think purely because I want players at other positions in the other game, I think I will be going with Munster at this stage. I think that he is just really safe. Even if, it's a tough matchup, I think Cam Munster could still be, have a really solid floor.
Look, I've got Munster at the moment. I think Blaze Talangi is about to blast out some huge score at some stage.
Yeah.
Just hasn't quite happened yet. The Panthers are an attacking juggernaut at the moment. Ben Hunt, I think, is the real pod.
Yeah.
Averaging, as I said before, 60 over his last 6 games. And I actually like that his role is different. He probably plays, let's say, 60 minutes in the halves and then 20 minutes at hooker. I actually like that split.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely need to have a better look at Hunt. The other guy from that game to maybe keep an eye on, Ezra Mann back but named on the bench this week. If you don't pick someone from the first game, you could potentially pivot to Ezra Mann if we find out that he is actually starting, but coming off the bench for now. So definitely one to avoid for now, but worth keeping an eye on.
If he starts, then absolutely he becomes a huge option.
Yeah.
Centre wing. So this is where a lot of people are going with the pods, which makes sense because it's the most volatile position in SuperCoach. Brian To'o, I ended up going against him last week and went with Karaz, who went well, but To'o is he's a freak in these big games. It's going to be a high-scoring one. He'll be the most popular guy in that slot, but equally, you need to take a punt to get a jump on everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, him and Paul Allen-Moldy would probably be the top 2 guys this week. But, if you want to actually stand out, then this, I think, is the position to potentially target pods. There's heaps of guys on here. Ronaldo Mulatalo, Kale Iro. The Sharks' back 5 is just really, really good. Even if it's a tough matchup, they could still go big. But the other guys we were talking about before as well, Tony Staggs, Gemma Shibasaki, I think pods from the Broncos Panthers game is the way to go.
Yeah, I think I've talked myself into Tony Staggs actually.
Yeah.
But, currently have Brian Tu'o penciled in, so
Yep.
we'll see what happens on Sunday. But either of those 2 guys, I think, are really good options. At fullback, it's interesting because Dylan Edwards did pretty well on the weekend with 80 odd points. Prior to that, he'd only been averaging 50 over his last 3. So it looks to be potentially he's carrying something. His runs are down, but I still think he is a great option in that position, assuming that you've got... Reece Walsh is the number 1 guy. You can chuck him at flex if you want as well. Yeah,
I'm probably going to do some sort of combination with it, both of those 2. I think Reece Walsh is the priority guy. I did see some stat that Walsh's recent record against the Panthers is not very good, so there is that to be aware of. But like we were saying before, the Panthers' defense this year is not what it has been in previous years, and Reece Walsh the last few weeks has just gone insane, really. So I do think he is the number 1 guy, but Edwards is a definite consideration, and at the moment I think I'm going to go with one of them starting and the other in the flex.
Yeah, I'm going to go with, same here. I'm going to have a combo of those 2. The VC will likely be on Walsh and then the C on Cleary, but we'll see. Any love for Ryan Pappenhausen, back from injury for the Storm?
No, I do really like him, but he really just doesn't have the base that someone like Dylan Edwards has, and is really dependent on tries, which, he could very easily go out and have a massive game, but I just have too many question marks around him, so I think I'll be avoiding.
Well, a lot of super coaches swear by the rule that when Ryan Pappenhausen is playing in Melbourne, you have to captain him, a bit like Tommy Turbo playing at Fort Pines Park, which I kind of subscribe to. But equally, it's a finals match as well. He's been out for a while. He hasn't played much footy. Jerome Hughes is only just coming back. Their spine. Harry Grant's only just come back recently as well. Their spines. It's all a bit unsettled there at the Storm. So I'll be avoiding.
Yeah, and I think it is worth saying though that I think most people are going to be targeting the Panthers-Broncos game for most of their selections, and Storm players could actually end up becoming pods. So Ryan Pappenhausen could be a pod consideration.
Yep, onto your flex. So, I mean, I'm going Reece Walsh there. The other tactic that I really like is going to centre wingers. So you go, let's say, Brian To'o in your centres, and then go Katoni Staggs in your flex as well.
Yeah.
If you really want to break apart from the pack.
Yeah, it's a risky strategy, but going massive pods, and that's the real upside play. So if it comes off, you could end up with a massive score.
Captain and vice captain, what are you locking in?
I think, we've talked about it the whole pod. I think Panthers Broncos is the way to go. So I think I'm just going to lock in Cleary as captain and Reece Walsh as vice captain.
I think I know that you want us to call out pod players, but there's also some people where you just need to back them. Otherwise, you're going to drop behind.
Exactly.
So for me, that's where I'm going with this.
I think if it does become the dominant strategy that like most teams are doing, like you could potentially flip it and do it the other way and go Cleary vice captain and Walsh captain.
Yeah.
But some combination of those two, I think, is the way to go.
Yep, I think that is the way to go as well. Big thanks to Wilson Smith. We'll be back next week for Grand Final week. We'll see you then.